What's going on, guys? Good morning. Welcome back to United View. Hope everyone is doing very well, having a good Monday morning, as well as you can be after yesterday's result. Of course, it's the day after the afternoon, the loss before Manchester United, of course, lost yesterday 3-1 at Villa Park. A Premier League defeat for Erik ten Hag. Leaves us fifth in the table, only 3 points off fourth, but certainly a reality check, a wake-up call, a very, very frustrating day at the office after... Even though we won on Thursday, another frustrating result. Of course, we were frustrated after the Europa League tie because we didn't get what we needed to get, which was 2 goals to top the group. The Europa League draw is at 12 p.m. today. Be sure to join us. And then followed that up with a disappointing result at Villa Park. And it's this kind of inconsistency, once again, that keeps rearing its head at Manchester United. It is part of the process, but certainly it can be very frustrating to live through. We're going to break everything down this morning on another edition of Matchday Reloaded. As always, we're going to get some comments from Erik ten Hag, discuss some comments from the players themselves. Luke Shaw, we're going to get some reactions from the likes of Flex, KG, Cam. We got a clip from the Tactical View, which is now live on the channel. So if you haven't checked that out, be sure to check that out. Maybe afterwards. Maybe after today's edition of Matchday Reloaded, you can check that out. But we're going to have a clip from that this morning as well. We're going to get some reactions from Paolo, as well as some highlights from the match view yesterday. Plus, we're going to get your opinions, your comments up on the screen as always. So be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Remember, you can join the UV Members Club. Links in the video description. You get your badges, your emojis, your exclusive members-only content, such as UV Raw, behind the scenes look at the day-to-day goings on at United View. New episodes always dropping. We've got the back catalogue. I think there's like 5 episodes now at this point, but there you go. So be sure to, as I mentioned, smash a like and let me know where you're watching from as well this morning. Get your comments up on the screen. Makish says, Donny van der Gender incoming. No, not this morning. We are going to talk about Donny van der Beek, but we're going to talk about the entire team. I was thinking about this as I'm sitting here waiting to go live. I was thinking, what players did I want to talk about? What topics did I want to talk about? What aspects of the game yesterday did I want to talk about? And it's going to be quite a difficult show this morning. The reason it's going to be a difficult show is because obviously we are going to talk about individual players. Obviously we are going to talk about players that maybe didn't work out yesterday or didn't play well or didn't have the levels of performance that we expect from them as Manchester United fans. But I think the most important thing to talk about when reflecting on yesterday's result is just the entire team, because the entire team wasn't at it yesterday. Yeah, we can talk about Donny. Yeah, we can talk about Ronaldo. Yeah, we can talk about Lisandro Martinez and Christian Eriksen and even positives like Alejandro Garnacho, and we will. But just United just... As Erik ten Hag said after the game, and we'll get to his quotes in a second, you get what you deserve. We didn't deserve to win the game. From moment one, we were not at it yesterday. If anything, the most lively we looked was in the opening 30 seconds when Alejandro Garnacho closed down Emi Martinez in the goal. And that was about it. Even our goal was a deflection. That was lucky. We didn't really even deserve that. So we got ultimately what we deserved, and that is 0 points, 0 points yesterday, and we've got to react to it now. And we've only got a couple of games left before the break of the World Cup. We've got, 2? We've got the Carabao Cup on Thursday against Aston Villa, once again, which, by the way, does not make up for yesterday's result. If I hear any of that in the media that's saying, United go through to the next round of the Carabao Cup if we beat them, of course. Oh, that's revenge for the weekend. No, it's not. It's not. It's not revenge for the weekend, because I'd rather have the 3 points in the league, because that's where we're going to need them. That's always going to be our bread and butter this season. But we've got to react. It's going to be interesting to see what Erik ten Hag does do on Wednesday. And then, of course, we've got Fulham at the weekend as well. Speaking of the manager, though, speaking of Erik ten Hag, he spoke to the media after the game, and he was pretty, as you would expect, blunt, brutal, honest about what went wrong for Manchester United in the 3-1 defeat at Villa Park yesterday. He said, we lose the game at the start of the first half and second half. That is unacceptable. They looked more fresh, more ready. And as I mentioned a few seconds ago, that's really what it boils down to. I can only imagine how frustrated the Manchester United manager must have been yesterday, because, and this is something that happened a lot last season. It's happened for a long time for Manchester United, where, as a coach, you drill your players, day after day after day about the game at the weekend, how you're going to set up, how you're going to stop them, how you're going to beat them, and then to be 2-0 down in 10 minutes must be infuriating. But it's football. It happens. And then you get a lucky goal. You get back into it just before half-time. And you go into the halftime break, and as a manager, you're thinking, right, I was going to say one thing, but things have changed a little bit. We've got a little bit of momentum now. Let's ground the players. Let's tell them what they did wrong, but also tell them how can we affect the game? How can we get back into this one? Because we're back in this now. And he speaks to him for 15 minutes at halftime, even on the pitch. Before the second half started, you saw the pictures. They came out on the pitch and Villa hadn't come out just yet. So Erik ten Hag's on the pitch. He's talking to Ronaldo. He's talking to Donny. He's talking to the whole team. And basically from kickoff, they nearly scored anyway. It was the FIFA hack. Literally kickoff, walk up the pitch, shoot. Goes right at De Gea, fortunately. But then they score a couple minutes later. And we've been starting cold recently. We have been starting cold recently. And this, to be honest, as I mentioned earlier on, you get what you deserve. And frankly, in some of the games recently when we've been starting cold, we've been fortunate to not go behind before. Maybe that's because we've got a good goalkeeper. Maybe that's because our defense has been so good. But as Erik ten Hag said yesterday, we just weren't at it. We were not at it. And we are, let's be completely honest here. We're not at that stage. When you're a really, really, really top side and you cannot be at it, maybe like a City, or in this case, I guess Arsenal, but certainly a City, when they're not at it first 20, 25 minutes, but they can get away with it because they'll have a lot of the ball and it's just a case of, okay, up your tempo, up your aggression. We're not at the stage where if we're not at it, we can get away with it, or it doesn't matter. Because in the Premier League, against a side that's at the bottom of the or close to the bottom of the table, new manager, hostile atmosphere, if you're not at it from minute one, you're going to be punished. These are good players. Aston Villa, to be honest, their team is not reflective of where they should be in the table. They should be way higher because they've got good players and now they've got a good coach. And you can't start the way you started without getting punished for it. And we did. And as Erik ten Hag said, that's unacceptable because that's mentality. I understand that we look tired, and we did. I understand that we've had a lot of games, and we have. And I understand that we look leggy, and we probably are. And maybe, again, it goes back to the squad depth not being there, or maybe Erik ten Hag should have rotated more in some of the games recently. But ultimately, it's mentality. They weren't up for it, and that is unacceptable. That's not good enough. Now, Ten Hag then continued saying, after a long time this has happened, I said it was up to us. We didn't keep the ball, we didn't get the right organisation, didn't follow the rules and lost the battle. And I'm so happy that he mentioned about following the rules, because he always says this. He always says this when we lose games. And whenever we've lost games this season, he pivots back to didn't follow the rules. And I mentioned it in my fan view when I spoke to Flex after the game, that when he's been asked, Erik ten Hag, this season about when it's turned around positively, and he'll be asked, Erik, what went well? What's gone well? What have you changed? And he's gone, well, we haven't really changed all that much dramatically, really. Just the players have bought in. The players have followed the rules. And they'll go, as the logical follow-up question is, well, Erik, what are the rules then? And he'll go, just give 110%. Win your duels, win your battles. Show some aggression, show some tenacity. And every time we've lost this season or we've had a negative result, we've just not shown that. And that's when I go back to, it's not an issue of quality with Manchester United, it's an issue of mentality with Manchester United. You look at when we lost to City, and that can happen, but the performance was disappointing that day because we were toothless, we lacked aggression, we didn't win our duels, we were lethargic. Look at yesterday, exactly the same. We didn't have aggression, we were toothless, we were lethargic, we didn't win our duels. Go back to those first two games of the season. We were toothless, we didn't have any aggression, we lost our duels, we didn't have any tenacity. It's basic fundamentals. And for whatever reason, this United side, whether it's physical fatigue, mental fatigue, they sometimes need shaking and they need reminding. And hopefully, games like yesterday are a reminder, you can't slack off. You can't. But it's true. You can't slack off in the Premier League. You can't slack off against any side, especially away from home with a new coach, with a coach of the quality of Unai Emery. People can banter him and all that kind of stuff and say good evening, but he beat us yesterday and he's beaten us in the past. So he knows what to do to win football matches. And the players, they just weren't good enough. They didn't have the mentality yesterday. And this is what it's going to be this season. It's going to be that. Up and down, because the players don't have that level of consistency, that high level of performance is going to be there all the time. They just don't have it yet. So you're going to have these instances where we win or we're unbeaten, because our form has been sort of win, draw recently. But we're going to have that instance, or these instances rather, where for 3 or 4 games you go, United are playing really well here, or they're getting results, and then suddenly, shock result. Now, the important thing is to bounce back up, because we're just going to have this inconsistency. We're still very early on in the process of Erik ten Hag. Rome, it's a cliche, but it's true, wasn't built in a day. This whole project isn't going to be rebuilt overnight, and there's going to be these issues with consistency, especially when you have the lack of quality and squad depth that we have. Look at the players that were missing yesterday. What did we lack in terms of the backline? Composure. Well, we didn't have Rafael Varane available, so that's going to happen. What did we have on the right-hand side? We had Marcus Rashford, and he's played very well this season so far, but every time he plays on the right-hand side, it ain't for him. You know, he can't really play off the right-hand side that well. So what did we miss? We missed Anthony. Anthony wasn't available. Bruno Fernandes. People can say what they want about Bruno Fernandes, and I have in the past as well, but you don't realise what you've got until you don't have it, or it's unavailable or suspended in the case of Bruno Fernandes, because we missed so much energy in that midfield, particularly going backwards. We had no energy in that midfield. We're going to get on to Eriksen and Donny and Casemiro, but particularly Eriksen and Donny yesterday were very lethargic, sort of ghosting around, not showing determination to get back in. And Bruno Fernandes, for his, his frustration, when you watch him and he can do these 1% passes that don't pay off, or he can be, again, just infuriating to watch. Recently, when we've got our goals against Sociedad and against West Ham, he's been, what has he been? The pass before the pass. And sometimes that doesn't get the recognition that it deserves, but if you're the pass before the pass, that's instrumental, not just going forward, but also, as I mentioned, his work ethic and his work rate, and he's a captain for a reason, because he's a leader, and we missed that yesterday. So again, you don't really realise what you've got until you don't have it anymore. Ten Hag then continued to say, the result is clear, it never lies. In football, you always get your earnings. Today, we were not good enough. And again, I can't really expand on that anymore, because it's true. We weren't good enough. We got what we deserved. Aston Villa by far deserved to win that game. As Ten Hag would say, it's clear. You can't complain about that result yesterday. We can say for the first goal, or the second goal rather, the free kick, the wall was so far back. Oh, was it over 12 yards back? But it doesn't matter. The way the free kick was given away was sloppy. That was it. Martinez with a heavy touch, Luke Shaw with a bad tackle. We have to hold ourselves accountable for poor performances, and that's what yesterday was. Poor performance. Ten Hag then said, our players have experience. You have to read the game, get the right organisation, and not concede 2 goals. That was totally unnecessary. You have to be compact and stand on the ball. Everyone has to win their own battles. We didn't. That is disappointing. Which again, as I just said a minute ago, that's what it really comes down to. The fundamentals. The fundamentals. We didn't win our own battles. Again, that's why it's difficult, as I mentioned. And we are going to talk about individual players because you have to. But I think the biggest criticism shouldn't be on one player yesterday. It should be on the group. Because as a team, as a unit, to a man, we were not good enough. You can paint everyone with that brush. We were not good enough yesterday. The work rate, the work ethic, it was poor from the start. And you felt it right away. And that was it. Ten Hag talks about the free kick, saying, I think the free kick is stoppable because the wall is too far over. Okay, these small details, but small details make a difference in top football. The details are everything to us because we were not fresh. And he was also asked, this is quite interesting, about how often we looked for Ronaldo for crosses, or how long we looked for Ronaldo and long balls over the top, just those long balls to Ronaldo to try and for him to win a header. And Erik ten Hag was brutal. He says, I think it was stupid to do that. We delivered too many quick crosses in from too far away. There was too much forcing and we didn't have to. We have to find the crosses in the right moments. And again, I'm so glad he said that, because sometimes when you see it so often in a game, like we saw yesterday, which again, those cross-field passes or cross-field forcing it into the box, or long balls from deep into the box to Ronaldo, or as I mentioned, crosses when they're not on, you think, well, it must be a tactical thing. You immediately go, well, I don't know why the players are doing that, so it must be an instruction from the coach. But what Erik ten Hag is saying there is, no, it's not. Patience. Have some composure. Take your time. Don't get a nosebleed when you're high up the pitch, or if you don't see anything around you, just think, well, I've got to get in the box, I've got to score goals. No. As Cam always says, and I love this quote because it's so right, sometimes to go forward, you have to go backwards. Be patient. Wait for the spaces to open up. Now, again, that's when you're in this process, and those players, in the moment of being uncomfortable, the moment of feeling, oh, I don't know what to do here, what do? You revert back to type. You revert back to your old habits. And that's what United did. And that goes back to mentality, fragility. And that's what we saw again yesterday. Fragile. Go 1-0 down, immediately go 2-0 down. And then almost give up on the game. Get a bit lucky to come back into the game, but still, you've already decided in your mind that the game's over, so you still don't put the work rate in. Ten Hag then said the right moment to find Ronaldo for the cross was when Christian Eriksen did so in the first half, and at that moment he found Cristiano Ronaldo in the pocket at the far post. That was the right moment. Of course, Ronaldo should have scored that, actually. And Ten Hag finally concluded saying, it's a setback, this is a process, and I know it will not only go up, setbacks will come, and we have to deal with that. And that would be, I guess, the overarching message from yesterday, is that it is a setback. The important thing is the reaction. The important thing is to react in the next game, particularly the Premier League game against Fulham, which is not going to be an easy game. But this is going to happen. This isn't panic stations. This isn't, the world's, Chicken Little, the sky's falling or anything like that. Unfortunately, this is going to be it this season. We still are going to be inconsistent. We still are going to have runs of games where we think like we've turned the corner, and then suddenly you realise the corner's a bit longer. It's a bit more of a giant roundabout instead of just a little corner. That's what it's going to be this season. The key thing, and I think the important thing for myself, and I'm only speaking for myself because I only can speak for myself, but the key thing for me is that it's just a case of, we're still in a good position. That's it. We're still in a decent position. We're still 5th in the league. We're 3 points off 4th with a game in hand. And if we can stick around that area, if we can stick around that 4th spot, then I think that's what we're aiming for. Because going into this season, if you asked me about getting top 4, I'd have said, there are better teams than us in the Premier League. What we are now seeing this season, it's a bit like last season all over again. That 4th spot, it's a group of teams that are massively inconsistent. You're looking at us, you're looking at Chelsea, you're looking at Liverpool, you're looking at Tottenham. 4 teams, Newcastle are almost clear of that batch of teams. But you're looking at those 4 teams, it could be anyone, because those teams are going week to week with a couple of wins, then a loss, then a couple of wins and a draw, and then a loss, and then a couple of wins again. That's going to be the season. So I think you might say, that's very pessimistic of you to be looking at 4th. But I think going into the season, we weren't really expecting all that much from Manchester United. So as long as we're around that picture, around that area, come April, then we're in a good moment. And I think we can be, because we've proven, particularly, most importantly, in those big games against big teams, we have delivered this season. It's just a case of these kind of games to get the right results, which we didn't, of course, yesterday. Super chat from Amir says, when asked about CR7 as captain, it was interesting how Ten Hag still said Maguire is our captain, but he's on the bench. Well, look, he's always going to say that, isn't he? He's always going to say that Maguire is the club captain. As he mentioned in the pre-season, he's the established captain. What we have seen now is really the hierarchy of the captaincy at Manchester United. It goes Harry Maguire, it goes Bruno Fernandes, and then it goes Cristiano Ronaldo. That's how it works at the moment. Maguire's not playing all that often, and pretty much now the established captain is Bruno Fernandes, but he wasn't available yesterday, and it's interesting that Ronaldo is the captain. I was surprised by it, to be honest. Not just because of what's happened recently with him and the walkout and all that kind of stuff, but there were also other players that could have been the captain yesterday. David De Gea was an option, but Ronaldo got the armband. And again, in reality, those are smaller details that really don't matter when you look at the overall performance yesterday. So there you go. So be sure to smash a like on the like button, guys. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right hand corner. Let's see what Flex had to say. Flex gave his view from UVHQ after United's 3-1 defeat against Aston Villa.
Things that I was most concerned about kind of came to fruition today. I had a bad feeling about today. I just thought, with Villa having a new manager, the place would be bouncing. I wasn't sure how we'd manage the occasion. And everything that we could do wrong in the first moments of a game, in the first minutes of a game, we did. We did, conceding after 7 or so minutes, then conceding quickly after that, then conceding another, even though it wasn't 3-0, I know we got one in between, but then conceding almost immediately after the second half begins as well. They were just all no-nos. They were all no-nos and all things that you can't do at any Premier League ground, let alone against a team who's got a brand new manager in Unai Emery, who's a very good manager, by the way. There were just too many mistakes. And you know what? Your game planning, your tactics and your team selection can be one thing. But when you perform like that in terms of your attitude, your application, the intensity or lack of, when you couple all of those things together, you're asking for trouble. And we just gave Villa more and more confidence. We just didn't show up today. We got exactly what we deserved today. Look, today was a bad team performance. I think when I look across the team and if I'm trying to look at individuals, I think it's difficult. I think it's difficult to just label that at one person's doorstep and say, oh, this player was particularly bad today or this player particularly struggled. Yeah, there's always a couple in there. I think Eriksen hasn't been himself the last couple of games in terms of on the ball. I don't think he was very good. Martinez had a couple of shaky moments today. You know, he takes a bad touch on the ball that leads to Luke Shaw giving away a free kick that they end up tucking away. And in the first half, I think for their first goal, I think Bailey kind of running in on him. Could he have slid maybe? Just a couple of little things. You know, Casemiro couldn't really impose himself in that midfield. Donny couldn't really get involved. Ronaldo, same thing. Rashford out there on the right is usually not one to light it up on there, and he definitely didn't do it. But collectively, across the whole squad, we just wasn't good enough. I think it's unfair to just label that at one player's doorstep. We just didn't have enough control in the midfield. We didn't look like creating gilt-edged chances, although there were opportunities to make something happen. And I just think this is the perfect example of why we are where we are.
Yeah, and I totally agree with really what Flex is saying. They're shock. I totally agree though that again it's difficult to blame, but it's difficult to single out one player individual. That's why we lost yesterday. We lost because collectively we were poor. And Unai Emery going into the game. On the preview that Flex and myself did, the question really was how quickly can Unai Emery establish or put his imprint on this Aston Villa side? And I wouldn't even say yesterday that he did. I wouldn't even say that Emery that was prime Emery ball yesterday, because it wasn't really. It was just a case of having a new manager that instilled this confidence, this belief, instilled this work rate. And if there was any element of doubt about these Aston Villa players, or there's any element of doubt, among them or among the fans about what this was going to be like under Unai Emery, that was eradicated when you score in the opening 10 minutes and suddenly the crowd's up and then you get a second goal and it's practically game over. And I understand like what Luke Shaw was saying, where he was saying, we always believe that we can win the game. He mentioned that we always, that he said after the game, we always believe we can win the game, even at 2-0 down. We spoke about starting well in the second half, but conceded again, then it's a mountain to climb. And as I sort of circle back on what Erik ten Hag was saying, or what I thought Erik ten Hag would be thinking, that's infuriating. How frustrating is that? You spoke all half time about got to start well, and make sure you don't concede early, but make sure let's get an early goal. Let's put some pressure on. You go and concede, and again that goes back to mentality. As Luke Shaw said after the game as well, we lost the game in the first 20 minutes of each half. We knew they were going to come out, new manager, and the crowd would be behind them. In games like this, if you start slowly, then we will lose the game. We weren't good enough. As I mentioned, he said, I always believed we could win the game, even at 2-0 down. He then says, we started sloppy, gave the ball away too easily. That is not good enough. We suffered today. We did not deserve the win. And to be fair, it kind of echoes what the manager has said. It's probably because he's just heard it from the manager, as he mentioned that you lost the game in the first 20 minutes of each half. In the Premier League, you can't do that. And at United haven't been scoring enough recently to go 2-0 down and come back and win the game. And yesterday, too, it's not that we made tons of chances still, but when you look back on it, can you recall, apart from their 3 goals, and I know it says that's a bigger part there, Owen, but apart from their 3 goals, I wouldn't even say David De Gea was particularly busy. They were absolutely clinical, absolutely ruthless in front of goal. 3 big chances, bang, score, 3 goals. Whereas it came for us, we had opportunities to make chances, but our decision-making was appalling. Our decision-making was awful. There was one bit in the second half. Dalot can cut the ball back. Ronaldo might be offside. I don't know. But if not, he can still take a shot. He makes the wrong decision. Ronaldo in the first half, ball over that header, that has to go in. There were several chances in the game to create something, or chances for United to have that big chance, but our decision-making just reflected our entire performance. Poor, toothless. Our midfield yesterday was non-existent. Ghosts in there. At one point in the first half, Casemiro just did a big slide tackle, I think just to try and wake everyone up. It didn't work, clearly, because the midfield, they were just walking through it. And it was kind of similar, actually. The warning signs were there against Sociedad on Thursday, because in that second half, and I understand it was because of a change of shape, we changed to that, was it 3-3-1 or whatever it was in the second half against Sociedad, but the midfield just suddenly evaporated and disappeared, and then suddenly it was always 1v1 when it came to the defenders versus the Villa attackers, and we saw that yesterday. A couple of those goals, particularly that last goal in the second half for Villa. It's an embarrassing goal to concede from a midfield point of view, because Jacob Ramsey, it's not as if he loses his marker, the person that's tracking him. There is nobody that's tracking him. For a good 25 yards, he just walks. He just jogs into the edge of the box or just inside the box. That is, I mean, beyond reprehensible from a midfield point of view. You always track your runners, and if in the case of Casemiro, you're going to close down the ball on the other side, you pass him off, or you at least let somebody know, pick up this guy, someone track him back. Or even if he doesn't, take it upon yourself. Take some initiative. The manager can't do everything for you. Take some initiative on the pitch, somebody point him out, or somebody track him yourself and say, I shouldn't be tracking that man, that's your man, but we got away with it in the end. Don't just wait for him to score and then everyone turns around and goes, what happened there? You know, it's that kind of stuff. It's no leadership, no intelligence. It was just, again, and we got what we deserved. It really was as simple as that. Nathan's been a member for 4 months. Appreciate 4 months of support, Nathan. Says, big up the UV team. Owen, you see Erik ten Hag calling all the crossing to CR7 stupid. LOL. Yes, we just spoke about that a minute ago, and it was. We were forcing it. VK says, ten Hag has been poor tactically in setting teams up during all the 5 losses so far. He's not reacting fast enough to change shape or personnel cost us. I mean, I kind of understand what you're saying there yesterday, whereby clearly it wasn't the right team to start with, or the right... maybe the right shape, and I think, in fairness, what people have seen, and it's not as if Graham Potter's doing an amazing job at Chelsea, because they lost yesterday and they still look miles off it, but I think people do look at what Graham Potter did against us, where it clearly wasn't working, and 35 minutes in he changed it, and Chelsea got back into the game. Maybe you could have said he should have done that yesterday, and maybe that's fair, but at the same time, I expected him to change it a little bit at half-time, but then when you score just before half-time, you think, well, maybe we're getting back into it. And for the final 10 minutes of that first half, we did get back into it a little bit. But, you know, that's it's a frustrating thing, certainly. KG, of course, was in UVHQ. We are going to talk about KG's one striker away theory later on in the show. But Flex spoke to KG after the game. Here's what KG had to say.
He's saying that you get what you deserve. You get what you deserve. And today, we got exactly what we deserved, which was a loss.
Terrible, man. Carrying passengers, you got to say before, the way Man United played in the past is you did be like 2 players, 2 or 3 they had to look after. Today, Martinez was a passenger or made mistake. Martinez made some key mistakes today. Eriksen is just off.
Wasn't there, was
just off. Donny van der Beek, again, he's another one. And just mistakes. I think it's just like the attitude. And maybe Ten Hag has to take something out of this game, because let's be honest, you should have changed it. You should have changed it. I know McTominay and Fred are not good enough. I know they lack, but that midfield, you start to see it and say, it's not working. You know, there's so many things in this game we say, guys, some changes should rectify the situation, because they just weren't at the office.
To counter that, you know, he didn't change it in the first half when we 2-0 down. We get back into it at a goal down. To 2-1.
Yeah.
Then he's probably talking to them at half-time. He's out on the pitch again to say, right, I believe in this team. Come on, go out there and you can get us back in. And then again, mistake.
But we're still open though. The issue is like Leon Bailey. Even when we got a goal back, I was still saying, well, it's not that we've nullified them and stopped them.
Yeah,
we were still really open. So when Leon Bailey was ever on the ball, you still thought to yourself, if they get a fair chance where they're free in front of goal, they're going to score.
That was mad. Look how they kicked off.
Look at the kick off.
They
just
kicked
like that.
Off and that's happened.
Because the other team, while our manager speaks to us, the other team, their manager will speak to them and tell them, listen, guys, we're here. They're there for the taking. They're not solid. And they right now, I don't know if they're not playing with full confidence defensively, because they pressed us immediately and they got their just rewards. Again, losing a game, we lost the game in the first 11 minutes. That's bad. For a Man United side to lose like that, it's an embarrassment. And one, because of silly mistakes. Martinez dawdling on the ball, makes a mistake, gets found out. The free kick, what happens because of the Martinez thing. Then there was even a sign in the beginning, I think they ran at it was Martinez. They ran at Martinez early doors, it kind of gets shepherded out. The second one, it ran at Lindelof, finished, you know? So it is what it is, man. Like...
So the views of KG after the game there, and I can understand what KG is saying by that point. It's kind of what VK was saying a second ago, whereby maybe in retrospect, we should have changed it, particularly at halftime. It may have been a game more for a Fred or a McTominay because we were getting so overrun in midfield. Maybe you would have swapped Fred for Eriksen or even McTominay for Donny van de Beek just to get some energy in that midfield where clearly we were losing that battle. To Flex's point, though, I can understand why Ten Hag maybe was reluctant to change it, because when you just get your goal before half-time, you say to the players, okay, right, wake up. It was just a case of you not being at it. Now you've got that goal, you've got that momentum, go and do something. Obviously, when Villa score a couple of minutes into the second half, maybe you're proven to be incorrect in that view. So I understand that point of view. Just before we move on to some individual players here, because we are going to talk about individuals this morning, there's been a tweet in the last couple of minutes from David Ornstein from The Athletic regarding some change, I guess, in structure or personnel at Manchester United. He's just tweeted the following. It's an exclusive from The Athletic. Manchester United head of football operations Alan Dawson is leaving the role and expected to exit the club in due course. At Manchester United over a decade and in post since 2017, he was a mainstay of the Ed Woodward era with a wide remit, more logistics than sporting performance. So a change, I guess, change is still afoot in Manchester United in those head of football operations and in those, I guess, executive roles within the company. But just once again, Alan Dawson, who is the Manchester United head of football operations, is leaving the role and expected to exit the club in due course. As I mentioned, he's been at United over a decade and in the post since 2017. In this specific role, he was a mainstay of the Ed Woodward era, suggesting that he was a Woodward guy, essentially. But look, I can't say I know too much about him, so I can't say, oh yeah, he was terrible, he was great in his role, but the club clearly needs a cultural refresh, and that goes all the way up to the owners, by the way. Let's not forget that. But we need football people. We need people who have experience in those roles. If he is going to be replaced by someone that has a ton of experience of being successful in that role, then that's good for Manchester United. But I think anything of the Woodward era just needs to go, doesn't it, and needs to be replaced. So hopefully we'll have more about that once it does get put out there. Going back to what KG said, though, about the midfield yesterday, Christian Eriksen, I thought was really poor. One of the worst games we've seen from him in a Manchester United shirt. And that kind of reflects what we saw on Thursday from Eriksen as well against Real Sociedad. I thought he was really poor there. And I don't know if that's because Eriksen is tired, like a lot of the Manchester United players. I don't know if that's fatigue. I don't know if that's playing so many games, and he's played the majority, if not all of them, the majority of the minutes in all of them as well. I also don't know if it's because of who he's lining up with. We've seen, actually, how Eriksen links up really, really well with Bruno Fernandes. And as I mentioned earlier on in the stream, you don't really realise what you've got until you don't have it, or you don't have the option to have it anymore, like yesterday with Bruno Fernandes and his suspension. Bruno has been the pass before the pass. And for instance, against West Ham last weekend, he was the pass to Eriksen to get the ball into the box for Marcus Rashford. So maybe it's a case of Eriksen not having that energy of Bruno around him. Maybe it's a case of Eriksen not having that link up of having Bruno there as an option. I'm not sure. Just Bruno, because oppositions have to be aware of what Bruno's going to do, or not sure about what he's going to do. Does that open up space for Christian Eriksen? I think it's a combination of everything. As I mentioned, it wasn't just Eriksen that I thought was very lethargic in the midfield yesterday, particularly when it came to tracking back. I thought Donny van de Beek was largely the same. We're going to talk about Van de Beek in greater detail a bit later on, but I thought he was very poor as well. Ronaldo up front too, I thought was ineffective, poor. And you can't even say, because he was, particularly in the second half, the biggest amount of attention he got is when he had a wrestle with Tyrone Mings. He didn't really do anything in the game. Now, before, all of the Ronaldo people come after me and say, well, he didn't get any service. He didn't get any, chances to score. Well, he did. He did in the first half. He had an opportunity to score. Yes, it's one, but a striker of the caliber of Cristiano Ronaldo last season would have scored that goal. And I know people will say, well, he hasn't had a run of games or he missed pre-season. We're in November at this point, realistically. And I know it can take time to catch up, but he's had consecutive starts at this point. He's played enough football. You have to score. You do have to score. And by the time Martial came on, which was a positive that he came on, hopefully he can actually build up his fitness now, it was too late anyway, and Martial wasn't really playing up front in that role. And going forward, maybe for that game on Thursday or the game next weekend against Fulham, I expect Martial to start in actuality. And I know then that'll become a thing once again about, Ronaldo's not starting. But he got an assist against Real Sociedad, which was good. But he's frustrating to watch. And he's not the only one, because a lot of United players are frustrating to watch, but he's frustrating to watch at that point. And I don't think really his status in the side has changed all that much at the moment. Yeah, he was the captain yesterday, and he's Ronaldo, and he's got the experience and the aura. No doubt about that. But I don't think his status in terms of him being Manchester United's starting striker, the number one striker in the squad, I don't think that's changed. I really don't. I think in Ten Hag's mind, it's still Martial over Ronaldo. And that will rear its head again when Martial is back. I mean, I thought he looked really off it. I think it's not a stretch to say he's probably not that fit at the moment, Anthony Martial. But yeah, that was just the case with Ronaldo yesterday. I don't think his status has changed that much. Be sure to smash a like on the like button, guys. We've got less than 100 likes. We've got nearly 500 people watching. We can do better. We can do better. So be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe as well, bottom right-hand corner. Speaking of the tactics, we have sort of touched on the tactics this morning. Flex and Cam had the tactical view, which is still live and up on the channel right now, so you can check that out right now if you wish, or after the show has finished. But here's a snippet of what Cam was talking about when it came to Aston Villa and why they were just so successful against us yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, was something we've tried to do recently, and it still makes me laugh sometimes. We tried to have Ronaldo leading the press again, and he just doesn't quite do it. And in terms of what set the tone for everything, it was us sort of trying to press Villa when they were playing out the back, and the number of times they got out so easily because Martinez could just find the fullback incredibly easily. It was just frustrating because it meant it killed us. It really did the entire game, and a lot of the themes that we saw when we were trying to get this press set translated really well into the rest of the game in terms of how that panned out. So again, what we've seen in recent weeks, if you've watched some of the recent tactical views, you'll have heard this a little bit before. Again, most teams when they're playing out, they split the centre-backs, get sort of a three like that with the keeper, so that even if the opposition play with a front two strikers, they've got the extra man there, so they can normally work it out. So what United have done recently to try and combat that is we've set up with a 3v3. So we've had Ronaldo there, we've had Garnacho and Rashford. They play fairly narrow to start with the idea here that then as soon as that goes there, bang, Garnacho locks on. It would have been nicer if it had, as I'd said, bang, clicks, but
we get what you mean. 100%.
Yeah, let's start United. Everything's just a little bit off, a little bit slow to react, slow to respond. Didn't work today. But yeah, the idea then is as soon as that ball goes out, that's your trigger, bang, you go. And then, look, if you can get there quick enough, great, you can stop them playing through, all that sort of stuff, but it just didn't work today. Behind that, in the midfield, what we typically try and do is on the deeper two midfield players, we push two up on them. So that'll be Van de Beek, and sometimes that was Eriksen, sometimes it was Casemiro on there. Let's say it was Eriksen in this case, so Donny sitting on Douglas Luiz, Eriksen sitting there, Casemiro sitting here somewhere. But where Villa caused us all sorts of problems was what they did was they started with essentially the front four being really high. So what that meant was, sorry, no, not the front four, that's Jacob Ramsey out here. They started with
wasn't
four.
actually playing in the 10 often, was it?
No, exactly. So it was really fluid. They changed around all the time throughout the game. But because they started with the front four so high, it made it really difficult then for the fullbacks here. If you've got a man on you, you can't just go and jump and kill Cash as soon as he gets the ball, or go and get Digne as soon as he gets that ball. So all Villa had to do, because these wingers are doing half and half, as long as you've got a keeper who can ping that ball out there, or ping that ball out there at a reasonable pace so it's zipped in and you trust their touch, that's all it takes to beat the press. So it was quite smart from Unai Emery in the sense that he's not worried too much about this tactic here, because he knows if he goes there, he gets pressed, just go back to Martinez, you can trust your keeper, zing that out there, and Luke Shaw can't really commit too much.
There you go, Cam with the tactical insight there. And tell you what, it was excellent because I was just sitting there, I was watching, forgetting that I had to come back and carry on talking. I was just watching, I was like, that's a good show. So the full tactical view is out at the moment. You can check that out on the channel. And again, it's a really good insight, certainly, with particularly in that first half, that where we couldn't. It was, as he mentions, we couldn't even, when we were trying to press him, when you've got Martinez just nip the ball over the top easy. And if that is the case, that's where your midfield should have the energy to get out to the players that they've passed the ball to. But they didn't, and we weren't at it. And the team looked certainly absolutely exhausted. I think, I do want to touch on the defence as well, because I think it's probably in the same vein that I said it's one of Eriksen's, if not Eriksen's worst game in a Manchester United shirt. The same could be said certainly for Lisandro Martinez yesterday. I thought Martinez was particularly poor. He looked erratic, was sloppy in possession, which is a rarity for him. We really haven't seen that in his tenure at Manchester United. We haven't seen him be this, like I said, erratic or sloppy or just poor on the ball. We look at that free kick, that he is a sloppy pass or a short pass to Luke Shaw. Luke Shaw then has to make the foul. They score from the resulting free kick. But again, that was across the entire back line. I thought Lindelof was was poor as well. I saw this was quite odd, to be honest. I saw a lot of discourse about Victor Lindelof online after the game, saying that, trying to almost imply that we lost the game because of Victor Lindelof yesterday. Yeah, Lindelof was poor, but so was Martinez, so was Diogo Dalot going forward as well, so was Luke Shaw on the left-hand side, so was Eriksen, so was Donny. I thought Casemiro did okay, actually, in parts, but he was sloppy on the ball. So was, Rashford, so was Ronaldo. Garnacho did okay. There was a lot of players, again, and it's difficult to single out one player to say that's why we lost. Of course, Lindelof didn't play well. Martinez didn't play well. I sympathise a lot for Martinez in the sense of that's the third centre-back partner he's played with in, the last 3 weeks or so. The centre-back partnership we want and Erik ten Hag prefers is Martinez and Varane. Okay, that can't be played at the moment. Varane's injured. He got injured against Chelsea. Thankfully, it looks like he will play. It's at least some part of the World Cup for him. Maybe not for United. That's not thankful for, but certainly for him and for France football fans. Okay, it's Varane. But then he's also played with Maguire against West Ham, and now he's played with Lindelof. There has to be consistency there, and there has to be continuity there, and that hasn't been there recently. Still, these are flippant excuses. The entire team wasn't good enough, and the entire team wasn't good enough on the ball, wasn't good with their intensity yesterday. But Martinez certainly will be disappointed with his performance. I saw also as well Leon Bailey on social media saying that he couldn't breathe after he got elbowed in the ribs and all that kind of stuff. Don't even get me started on referees and VAR. Don't even get me started. I sympathise with him a little bit, but still, what do you expect? The referees in this league are awful. They're terrible. They're absolutely appalling. VAR is appalling. Do we have to get into some of the bad decisions this weekend just across the Premier League, let alone in that game yesterday? That wall, I've had another look back on it because I did a quick search on social media this morning and I thought, does anyone speak about that wall or that free kick? It's miles back. It's miles back. But of course it doesn't matter. The referees, who cares about that, right? So I don't know. I don't know. But as I mentioned, I thought Martinez was poor. I thought Lindelof was poor. The entire team yesterday was poor. It's difficult to single it out to individuals. Paolo was also with us for the match for yesterday. He was at UVHQ. Flex spoke to him after the game. Here's what Paolo had to say.
So many good performances. I think to be fair though, before the game you said, I kind of felt a bit flat for this game. And it kind of felt the same last season when we played Villa. I don't think we were great against Villa last season. It's a different season, new manager, you expect a different performance, but you could see, the likes of Dalot, Martinez, players who have played so many games. We're missing backups, and we had that, conversation on stream about striker. KG believes we need just a striker to challenge for the league. I have to disagree. I think we're missing players in terms of depth. We don't have quality and depth. And yeah, today just showed how much we're missing.
Was it a humbler for us, like you're saying, it shows how much we're missing, but
yeah,
also does it show another just another gentle reminder, even though it doesn't feel gentle, it hurts.
Yeah.
But that this squad needs a hell of a lot more time to keep doing what Ten Hag wants them to do at a consistent level.
Yeah, it shows how much progression we still need to get to. I think we've had great performances this season, but it shows how much better we can get because we've got great players in this squad. And yes, it did humble us because, you said it, every 6, 7, 8 games we will have performances like this, like the Cities, like the Brentfords and all of that. Because look, we don't have the depth. And really, even some of these players we've played today, look, there's still a question for me, even at left back. You look at Luke Shaw today, you look at Malacia. We still haven't seen enough from Malacia in terms of, his consistency and what he can bring. He's still a young player, of course. There's still questions in some positions. And when you look at the likes of McTominay and Fred, in my opinion, who don't have that quality to maintain that level that Eriksen, Bruno and Casemiro can maintain in a game. And even them today, they weren't great today. Just look at the off-the-ball work. Just look at the lack of tracking the runners and the lack of desire to get back.
How much was midfield a problem today? What did you make of our midfield?
Big problem. We talk about chances created. And I think, we did create some chances today. But when you look, those goals were all because of lack of desire and lack of off-the-ball running and tracking your runners. That's what it was today, and we saw that plenty last season. How much did we see that last season? And it was almost a flashback from last season, but just with different players. You look at Casemiro today, sometimes his recovery pace wasn't there and his awareness of when to track back wasn't there. Same with Eriksen. Even on the ball though,
Shout out Paolo after the game yesterday, talking to Flex, Manchester United's 3-1 defeat against Aston Villa at Villa Park. I do want to talk about Donny van de Beek, of course, and I know people are going to go, here we go, settle in, the Donny van de Gender's coming in. But he was poor yesterday. like everyone in the team, he was poor. He wasn't, he wasn't singular in that sense. He wasn't the exception to every other player that tried really hard and Donny was terrible. No, it's not the case at all. He just did what I believe, certainly he's done a lot in his Manchester United career, and that's largely goes through games. Maybe a couple of nice passes, a couple of good touches, but you want more. You want energy, and I think we saw yesterday particularly the difference between him and Bruno Fernandes. I know there's been this big cry amongst Manchester United fans to see Donny get a run of games and see Donny start games, and I think that's perfectly fair and justified. And I do think it's fair, those people that say, well, it's difficult to judge Donny because he hasn't had many games in a Manchester United shirt and he only comes on for 5 minutes here and there, and it's difficult to get that match rhythm going. And even some might say after yesterday's performance, well, Owen, he's only started 2 games in a row and, it's going to take some time with him. He's coming back from an injury. But ultimately, what have we seen with some of the success stories at Manchester United this season? It's when you do get your opportunity, take it. Take that opportunity. Do something, give the manager a reason to say, I can't drop this player. I can't drop him from the next game because he's played so well, because he did so great in that game. Against Real Sociedad, against Aston Villa, he just ghosted through the game. And even if going forward, you're not getting the ball that much, and even if you are getting into those spaces and people aren't finding you, at least when you're tracking back, put something in. Put something in, put a tackle in, or just hassle the players, at least so people can see, wow, I tell you what, it was a frustrating day for him, but he put a shift in. I can't say that I think that Donny really, really put a shift in yesterday. Certainly not to the level that Bruno did, and I think that's the difference. Even when Bruno is having a stinker in the game, he either goes to find the ball to try and affect the game because he realised I'm having a stinker or I'm not doing enough, or from the defensive point of view, he presses, he hassles the players, and he puts a shift in. And I don't think there's any doubt or any question, come the next game, Bruno Fernandes will start instead of Van der Beek. The only thing might be, because I think Ten Hag, considering the fatigue of the players, which is clearly there to see, I do think he'll make wholesale changes for the Carabao Cup on Thursday. Therefore, it might mean that Donny does start again. And if he does start again against Aston Villa on Thursday, take that chance. Take that chance. Do something. As I've said before, sometimes you just want to shake him. It's like, do something, please. It's not enough at this point anymore to be doing touches or decent runs, but people don't find him. Go and affect the game. Or if you're not affecting the game, go and press hard. And I didn't see that yesterday. And, he should realistically, I know he's coming back from injury, but he should be fresher than some of the other players that have played all of these games recently. I know, again, he's come back from injury, but still, I want to see more. And I really have to stress, I'm not singling him out, because whenever you single out one player, people turn it into a game of whataboutism. What about him? What about him? What about him? When I'm talking about Van der Beek, it's still the same response from myself, is I want to see more. I want to see more. And when I say more, I not necessarily mean more games. I want to see more when he does start, when he does come on. I want to see him affect the team positively. And if it ain't going to work with Donny now, it's not going to work in general, because all of the aspects are there for him. I've heard so many different rationales for why it's not working out with Donny at Manchester United. It's because he doesn't have the right coach. It's his coach now. It's the guy that got him, essentially, his move to Manchester United. Or it's because we don't play the style of football that really unlocks Donny van der Beek. Well, now we do. Now we do play that style of football. We are trying to play Erik Ten Hag ball and Erik Ten Hag possession-based football. So something's got to happen at this point. So I'm not saying he's a bad player. I'm not saying, because people, again, I think go over the top with us, say, he's not even good enough for the Premier League. I disagree with that. I think there is a good player in there, but you've got to show it. Especially at Manchester United, you've got to show it. An example of someone coming in and taking their opportunity is Alejandro Garnacho. I think Garnacho's come in, and the 3 games he's played for Manchester United, he's done really well. Yesterday, in a team that was performing poorly, Garnacho, I think, did well. He pressed, he showed energy. There's clearly something there. There's clearly something there with Alejandro Garnacho. We've got to tie him down. He's energetic, he's got pace. There's still a long way for him to go, particularly in those Premier League games. Physicality, maybe a bit of composure as well. Sometimes his feet are too fast for his head. But you can see there a player that can really positively contribute to Manchester United in the future. And I think this season too, that left-hand side, we've got a lot of options. I still think Rashford's the prime option on the left-hand side, because yesterday on the right-hand side, he was really, really bad. And whilst we've been praising Rashford recently for his uptick in form, and you have to say yesterday he was really poor. But again, I don't want to be reacting too much because I see some people saying, see, I told you Rashford was always poor, he was terrible. Well, let's be careful because he's also scored goals for us recently and won us games. So, I'm not going to go in too hard on Rashford, but he was poor yesterday as well. So that's just what I want to see when it comes to Donny. I want to see more from him. That's it. Also, before we wrap things up, we've got about 10 minutes left. So be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe bottom right-hand corner. See if we can get it up to 200 likes. We had the match view, of course, yesterday in UVHQ. It was a jam-packed stream. KG there, of course, hosting, holding down the fort. He had Flex, myself, Cam and Paolo there. Now, after the game, once the result was in, after Villa had secured the 3 points, I wanted to bring up what KG had said before the stream and also what he had said recently on the Flex and KG show, which was this idea that Manchester United were one striker away from competing for a Premier League title. I brought it up again and we had some interesting results.
I was going to say, you said before the stream that we were one striker away from challenging.
Yeah.
Do you still think that?
Yes. Yeah.
Why do you think that?
I'll tell you, Flex.
I don't
As simple as it's simple because I think you have to look at these games and you have to take these games into the moment that it is. Man United, they've made a lot of mistakes to themselves today. Martinez has made mistakes. We've never seen the defense be that bad. They haven't. So defensively, wouldn't say that we've been bad defensively. The issues is going forward and getting the goals. So then after when I'm saying that we could be one player away, that's what I felt of the defence that we're seeing. If defence that hasn't conceded at home for 8 hours, you say we ain't conceded in 11 hours in open play. We've been nice, we've been tidy.
You can't say
so,
we're
but I'm saying
away.
But today is a game where you say you can chalk it up to a bad performance and say everyone was bad today, but that's what it is.
We're one striker away plus.
I believe
plus
that
another midfielder, plus another right back.
No, because them midfielders come in. Them midfielders today, these guys are Eriksen's off form.
Yeah, so you need another good midfielder to replace him.
No, because they're not. He's playing. Because it's choosing the team. Because you still got Fred and McTominay.
Yeah, and the squad depth isn't good enough.
No, but they can play though. They can add.
But you said if you.
You're not good enough to challenge.
Wait. It's either you guys.
That was just saying we're good enough to challenge.
It's either wait. But it's either you lot say I've got an opinion and you lot don't like it, but I'm saying you haven't have an opposing opinion. But I'm saying that there's good enough players in the team that I'm saying that you can play the Fred and McTominays and they can get you through some of these games. Today, you can say that Ten Hag might have got it wrong with his team that he selected because he started with Donny and Eriksen and it hasn't worked. Could Fred and McTominay done better today? Probably. We'll never know. That's what I'm saying. But I'm saying that they've helped us. But they've helped us out. They've been significant before. Unless you're saying now we got to sell Fred and McTominay right now, which no one is saying. So I'm saying that what we're needing is a real striker to just help us over the line. I think that some of the issues that we're having is them not scoring goals early. These lot are scoring goals early, and goals gave them confidence today. If Aston Villa ain't got them goals, they wouldn't play. Their tails wouldn't be up the same way you are. And we keep playing in games where we're wasting opportunities because we haven't got someone lethal in front of goal. I don't understand what you don't understand.
I just completely disagree.
That was interesting. Was it? And by the way, as well, that went on. We always, once we finish the match view, we always go on for about 15 minutes, give a bit of a post-game reaction before the fan views go up, and just break down an immediate reaction because that's what you always want to do, especially once the game's just ended right there. Sometimes you don't even want to wait and digest 15 minutes. You just want to give your reaction, get that emotion out of you, and say what went well, what didn't go well, or whatever. And, when you can trace something back to one question being asked yesterday, I just happened to ask that question and that went on for like 15 minutes and it got even more heated and elevated. So be sure to check that out. The whole match view is still on the channel, so you can check that out. The last 15 minutes, a box office to be sure. Of course, I was in the conversation there. I really disagree with what KG is saying there. I think that we need far more than one striker to compete for a Premier League title. My point being is I think if you say we're one player away from competing for a title, what you're really saying is you drop said player into that team yesterday and suddenly we're a team that compete for the title. I think we're far, far further away from that. We didn't lose that game yesterday because we weren't clinical enough, or we didn't lose that game because it was like, oh yeah, we dominated the side, 70% possession, we had all of these chances, but we missed sitters, and the goalkeeper made a load of saves, or this, that, and the other. No, we lost yesterday because we weren't good enough. We did not dominate the game. Villa dominated us. We had opportunities to create chances, but we didn't create a ton yesterday. So in my opinion, yes, we need a striker. Not disputing with that. Clearly we need a striker. But also we need greater squad depth. I know KG spoke about McTominay and Fred being options there. But we have seen, and I kind of said this at the top of the show, but we have seen that if you're missing Varane, if you're missing Anthony, if you're missing Bruno, or you've got illnesses and suspensions, we don't have the squad depth to realistically compete. And also, if we're talking about the players looking tired, well, if you had a quality squad and in-depth, real quality in-depth in the squad, 2-3 players for every single position, the players wouldn't be as tired because Ten Hag could effectively rotate. And at the moment, he can't effectively rotate because every time he has, we lose games or the performance level drops off massively. And that's really the case for Manchester United. So I don't think we're one striker away. We might be one striker away from having an excellent starting 11 that can compete with anyone in the league. And we've kind of seen that as well. But ultimately, we need 4 or 5 players still. And that is going to come over time. That's going to come over time with transfer windows for Erik Ten Hag. But Imran says here, Owen, no other team has the squad to miss 5 stars, even City. Well, I disagree because I think City do. I think City really do. I think City could miss 5 players. They would still win games. They would still, even if City were missing 5 players yesterday, and we're talking big players, De Bruyne, etc., Haaland, they would still go to Villa Park and they would still dominate possession, and they would still, it might be difficult, but they would still most likely win that game. And we didn't. The drop-off in performance is massive. So, again, that's to push back to the point of what I was saying there with KG, is that we're far more than one striker away. We're one striker away from having an excellent starting 11, and we've seen, if we've got pretty much everyone fit, that we can compete with those big teams like we did against Arsenal, like we did against Liverpool, like we did against Tottenham. But when we have players missing, we don't have the squad for that. We need another right back. We need, again, a striker. We need more in the midfield. We need another centre back. There's clearly more positions to recruit for there. I think the difference is, as I mentioned, we need more. Clearly, we need more, and I don't even think we should be really entertaining that thought process of being one player away from or even titles or anything like that for a really long time. As I mentioned, going into the season, for me, it was a case of 4th is a big ask. We are in that conversation, I think, of competing for that 4th spot this season. If we can get 4th Champions League football, that's a big win for Erik Ten Hag this season, in his first season at Manchester United. And I know the response to that is, wow, look at the drop-off of Manchester United over the years. Yeah, it's there to be seen. It really is there to be seen. But you have to take time and you have to build. And I think that 4th spot is going to be like it was last season, where it's just a case of who can be the most consistent out of a bunch of really inconsistent sides. Because you've got us, Chelsea, Spurs, and Liverpool, realistically, that are sides that have really good players, really good teams, really good managers, but they're inconsistent. It's always up and down. And as it came to last season, it was just Spurs who managed to be the most consistent out of a bunch of inconsistent teams, and they got the 4th spot. It will be the same this season, I think. But I still think we're in a good position. 3 points off 4th with a game in hand over 4th, which is Spurs at this point. So we're still in a good position. We just have to take advantage. We've had a tough run of games in the top 6, and we've come out of them very well. When it comes to playing these teams now lower down in the league, you have to take advantage. We're slightly unfortunate, I guess, for playing a team with a new manager bounce. Didn't manage the game, though, and you have to do that. You have to do that to win games. You have to manage games effectively, and we didn't do that yesterday. So there you go, guys. That's another edition of Match Day Reloaded. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. We've got a jam-packed day for you, actually, today on Monday, the 7th of November. We've got the Europa League draw. We're going to find out who we're going to be playing in that Europa League playoff. Big sides available: Barcelona, Ajax, Juventus. So we'll see how that goes. We'll be live at 12 p.m. for that draw, and we'll be giving our reaction to see who indeed we do get. And of course, it's Monday. You know what that means. It's full view at 7 p.m. this evening, so be sure to join us there. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Click the notification bell. You'll be notified when we go live or when any video gets uploaded. Remember, you can join the UV Members Club as well. Links in the video description. It's also the pinned comment in the live chat. You get your badges, your emojis, and your exclusive members-only content. But I'm out of here. Hope you have a great Monday morning, and I'll speak with you again very soon. Peace.